stars amateur archaeologist Ralph Glidden and his bizarre museum. But before his act, a German naturalist got the story going in 1913. A Dr. Firstman reported unearthing an 8-foot-tall skeleton with artifacts such as mortar, pestles, and arrowheads on Catalina. He was told of a legend while in Mexico of a giant and noble race that lived on the island, who existed long before the white man and have since vanished, of course. Amateur archaeologist Ralph Glidden unearthed and collected a total of 3,700 skeletons on the Channel Islands between 1919 and 1930. He worked for the Hay Foundation of New York. He unearthed a 9-foot 2-inch skeleton. A skeleton of a young girl, evidently of high rank, with a large funeral urn, was surrounded by those of 64 children. Wow! And in various parts of the island, more than 3,000 other skeletons were found, practically all the males averaging around 7 feet. And another being 9 foot 2 inches tall. Wow. As part of search for, the name of it is Search for the Lost Giants, Jim and Bill Vieira visited Catalina to investigate the box. And indeed, there were photos of hundreds of skeletons, skulls, excavation, artifacts, and burials. They uncovered an account of a 28-inch femur unearthed on St. Nicholas Island. This would make the skeleton over 8 feet tall. So that was pretty much authenticated. Beaver Lake, Ozark Caves, Arkansas. During the filming of Search for the Lost Giants, the site of the cave was investigated. It had been flooded with the damming and creation of Beaver Lake between 1960 and 66. Bill Vieira and professional scuba diver Mike Young dove into the lake and found a huge shelter cave believed to be the site of the skeletal finds, while a 70-foot stone wall was found at the entrance of the caves, showing likely human habitation. The following text reads as follows. While the historical features of the Ozarks held our attention, the most fascinating discovery was one made by the aged recluse and naturalist who for 10 years had lived in a shelter cave near where we camped. Dad, Riggins, spent much of his time digging in the ashes, which formed the floor of many of the caves. At a depth of more than 3 feet, he found the remains of several giant human skeletons, including an almost perfect skull, which differed, of course, in many particulars from a modern specimen. When partly joined, the largest skeleton was almost 10 feet tall. He also showed them hieroglyphics coloring the Palisades, thought to be thousands of years old. So, there you go. But the number one find, of course, it was West Hickory, Pennsylvania, 1870, an 18-foot skeleton. They exhumed an enormous helmet of iron, which was corroded with rust. Further digging brought to light a sword, which measured 9 feet in length. A well-preserved skeleton of an enormous giant. The bones of the skeleton are remarkably white. The teeth are all in their places, and all of them are double and of extraordinary size. It was estimated to be 18 feet tall, and the bones were being prepared to be sent to New York. There could be a little exaggeration, as 18 foot is unheard of, but the matter-of-fact description is intriguing. The discovery was reported to be buried 12 feet below a mound. It could be suggests a deep antiquity. I hope that some of these accounts leave you realizing that there, of course, some truth to these reports. Some can't be totally verified, but most of them can. Okay. But what I've read constitutes only 1% of what is out there. There's a book called Giants on Record, America's Hidden History, Secrets in the Mounds and the Smithsonian Files. So that's a book to get. There are dozens of histories that revered them as gods, and sometimes as fearsome cannibalistic warriors. Great wars were said to have taken place between these titans in prehistoric battlefields, with oversized bones and weapons, frequently reported by early colonial farmers. Eyewitness accounts of live giants were reported by English and Spanish explorers and some of the early presidents. Mystics such as Edgar Cayce, Rudolf Steiner, Madame Blavatsky, and Freemasons all regarded giants as reality. Of course, the origins of North American giants are hotly debated. Of course they are. But there is now enough data to begin serious research into the subject. There is also compelling evidence that the giants may have originated within the Americas. 1100s of a Native American creation myths and oral histories attest to this, the giants being mentioned in the stories from remote times. However, a lot of people don't believe in giants. They scoffed the idea, saying it's all folklore and got mixed up by, sensationalism. Nope, don't think so. There is ample evidence within Native American mythology, genetic data, ethnological studies, scientific reports, excavation records, first-hand accounts, and discoveries in town histories to suggest otherwise. Now is the time to take a look at this data, to investigate what happened at the Smithsonian. As an important chapter in human history is on the verge of being lost forever. So, what do you think? I think that giants existed. Whether, how they became, whether they were fallen angels or aliens even, coupled with the human women and created the Nephilim or the giants. Obviously, it's been authenticated, yes, in plenty. And then you have your Bigfoot, your Mothman, the Beast of Bray Road. You have the Michigan Dogman. Could these be our modern day Nephilims? They sure fit the description, don't they? I think it's all connected, of course. How can it just goes, it keeps coming back, the years, everything that we've talked about. It could be. It's just amazing. It really is, the stuff that is out there about this. So what do you think? And yes, I'd love to do a podcast with you about giants. It would be amazing. That would be so much fun. Yes, absolutely. I've got the hiccups. I'm sorry. Oh, goodness. I'm sorry. So, are giants myths or real? As always, I have always said that your myths and folklore and everything came from somewhere. It just doesn't come out of somebody's mind. There is a basis for this. Maybe now we have a clue as to where some of this came from. The Nephilim, the giants of old, which now gives us our modern day things. This came from somewhere. It didn't just, it's kind of proof that there is proof they existed. So why would we doubt it, right? I don't at all. I believe there were giants. Whether you believe or not is up to you. I just wanted to give you information that they could have. That is very possible. You have to make up your own mind. I can't sway it for it. I like to a little bit. But again, with the ones, the giants of Appalachia, okay, Um, as we talked about, ancient writings are filled with references to giants who once lived upon the earth. They span the globe and encompass nearly all of the world's cultures, ranging from Homer, a Greek poet who lived in 400 BC, to Moses, who wrote of a time before the Great Flood in which there were giants in the earth. And despite the repeated references of a prehistoric time in which the world was inhabited by colossal men, many archaeologists and anthropologists have been quick to dismiss these claims. Of course they are. The notion of a world once ruled by towering giants was nothing more than a fairy tale. Wrong again. The discoveries, however, are causing scientists to take a second look. Though knowledge of coal's existence in the Appalachian Mountains had long been held by white settlers, it was not until the 1800s, during the Industrial Revolution, that the concept of mining and transporting the black ore was feasible. As the nation entered a new age of manufacturing, the value of coal was quickly realized, and the era of widespread Appalachian coal mining started. With armies of men now blasting and digging immeasurably old rock formations, workers began to uncover dozens of strange artifacts, most notably what appeared to be a mega-sized human bones. Hey, WO! Long time no see. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. On October 11th, 1916, the Seattle Star reported that residents in northern PA uncovered an Indian burial mound containing the bones of 68 men. According to the article, the average height of the assembled skeletons was 7 feet, while many of them were taller. Evidence of their gigantic size was found in their large stone axes placed in the grave. The Pennsylvania skeletons are anything but an anomaly. Half a century earlier, workers constructing a bridge in upstate West Virginia were dumbfounded when they dug up 3 giant skeletons containing strands of reddish hair. Again, what does that remind you of? Bigfoot. Okay? It contained strands of reddish hair. A local doctor was called to examine the colossal remains. He concluded it had to be no shorter than 8 foot tall and definitely human. In the fall of 1882, F.M. Fetty and his wife, both amateur archaeologists, were exploring a nearby cliff and found an unusual rock formation along the walls of the shelter. A closer look revealed a false wall had been erected. Fetty and his wife removed several of the large stones and made the startling discovery of a giant human mummy sitting in a chair. The following summer, James A. Faulkner unearthed an unusually large human skeleton in the same area. Again, a local doctor was called in to measure the skeleton. It was 7 feet 4 inches long. Similar discoveries were unearthed throughout the mountain state in the decades to come. On October 22nd, 1922, the following report was made. One of the most interesting of the 5 state parks is Mound Park at Moundsville, from which that city derived its name. Probably no other relic of prehistoric origin has attracted as wide study among archaeologists as the Grave Creek's Mound, which has given up skeletons of the ancients who constructed it. Archaeologists investigating the mound dug out a skeleton said to be that of a female. The skeleton was 7 feet 4 inches tall, and the jawbone could easily fit over the face of a man weighing 160 pounds. Of course, tales of the colossal giants permeate the American Appalachians and have, for centuries, haunted the dreams of explorers. But knowledge of their existence and discoveries became lost to recent generations. That could be just from not enough information or design, or just overload of information. Regardless of why, scientists now are taking a renewed interest in the giants of Appalachia, and local residents will be hearing a lot more of them in the future. So I think a renewed interest in this is is coming.